Hello and welcome to Eagle Vision Aerial. My name is Ryan and eaglevisionaerial.com, and today what we're going to try to accomplish is a little basic instructional video on the DJI NASA flight controller system and just some basic operations of the NASA along with the DJ6 transmitter, and just to kind of give you you beginners a little bit of basic knowledge on how this flight controller system works, and just some basic operational and piloting skills. Just some things you should know just getting started in the multi-rotor industry. So we'll be going over the NASA V2 as well as the NASA Lite, which have a lot of the same features, and also some basic operations, as well as going over the LED status light that's on the bottom of the NASA, which is very important to pay attention to as you're flying your multi-rotor. This is the first video of a series that we're going to be doing, instructional series, and it'll run all the way through up to the high-end stuff, such as the S1000 octocopter and the A2 flight system, flight controller system, as well as the DJI Light Bridge system. So stick with us, and you'll be getting some great information from these videos. Alright, so let's get started with some basic operation and function of your NASA flight controller system. This segment will be talking about the NASA flight controller system, the flight modes, and the LED status light. Now keep in mind, you might have a V2 NASA or you might have a NASA Lite. This section will pertain to either one. They both have these same functions, exactly the same, so if you're flying with either one, feel comfortable knowing that this video will pertain to either flight controller system. So, alright, so what we have here is your DJI radio, your DJ6 7-channel radio, and what you have on top here is your 3 position switches. The one on the left is your intelligent orientation control. The one on the right is your flight mode control. We'll be talking about the one on the right here, as well as the status light on the bottom of the aircraft. Okay, so all the way up is what they call the GPS mode. That's your GPS hold position. When that switch is all the way up, what it's going to do is lock the position when the aircraft stops. So once you let go of the sticks, the aircraft will stop and it'll stay in that position. At the most, it might move 3 feet in either direction with just a little bit of wind or whatever, but pretty much the flight controller, the NASA, is a very good system, and it's going to lock that position extremely well. So feel comfortable that you can let go of the sticks. If you get a little, your heart rate gets up a little bit or something, just let go, take a breather, and know that your aircraft isn't going to go anywhere. It's going to be locked in that position, so you can kind of get your bearings back, get your comfort level back, and then begin flying again. That's all the way up. That's your GPS lock position. One click down puts it into attitude mode. In attitude mode, the aircraft is going to fly a little bit more aggressively. It's going to allow you to get a little more speed at full tilt and so on. But remember, in attitude mode, you're not going to have that GPS lock feature. So if you're flying, there's a little bit of wind or something, that aircraft will drift. It'll go whatever way the wind's blowing it. So keep that in mind. If there's buildings or trees or anything like that around that you could potentially hit, the aircraft isn't going to lock that position. And then all the way down is going to be your manual mode, which I highly do not recommend for beginner flyers because it's a very aggressive flight mode. So you want to keep it in either the top or the middle position to get started with. We'll go over manual mode and different things in another segment, but that's pretty much an explanation of your 3 flight modes right there. And next we'll be talking about the LED status light. Alright, next we'll be discussing the LED status light that'll be on the bottom of your aircraft. That is with your NASA flight controller system, again, either the V2 or the NASA Lite. You can mount it pretty much anywhere in the bottom of your aircraft. You do just want to make sure that that thing is perfectly visible while the aircraft is up in the air, because it's very important to be able to pay attention to the different light codes that it's going to be throwing off as you're flying your multi-rotor. On this particular DJI 550 flame wheel series, I have it mounted right over here, so it's in a nice position. It's easy to be seen as it's up in the air. And what we'll do real quick is we'll go ahead and power this thing on, and I'll go over some of those light status codes with you. So we're turning our radio on here. Always turn your transmitter on first. Power on the machine. Let it go through its startup phase. Alright, and then as you first get started, you always want to make sure that your flight mode switch is in the up position. That's in the GPS position. That will allow the flight controller to begin searching for satellites, which is what it's doing right now. It begins doing that immediately when you power it up. So as you can see on the bottom here, the status light is blinking a combination of red and green. The green is showing you that it has some satellites that it's already locked onto. The red flashing is telling me that it still needs more satellites before it's able to perform the GPS functions properly. You see how it just flashed rapid green succession like that? That means it locked onto more satellites. Actually, the number of times that it flashes lets you know how many satellites it is locked onto. It's kind of hard to read, but you do have to have a minimum of 7 satellites to be able to perform the function safely. So, you know, you gotta wait. You'll see it flash green and then to red. You never want to take it off if you see any of those red flashes, because that means it does not yet have a minimum of 7 satellites, and you run the risk of not being able to have the features such as your position hold. So we may not be able to get a GPS, complete GPS link in here because we're in a building, obviously, so we might not be able to do that. But what you want to wait for before takeoff is this thing to flash just green lights. You don't want to see any of the red flashing. So you want to wait till you have a solid green flashing light before takeoff. So once you have that, you want to then feel comfortable to be able to take off on the radio. Now if you look at that status light, let's switch down one to our attitude mode, which is that flight control, that flight mode switch there, that 3-position switch on the right. Drop it down one to attitude, you'll notice that that flight LED status there now changes from red to orange. It's showing you red because it's still trying to find the satellites. It's letting you know it hasn't locked on yet, but you see the orange flash in between. That lets you know that you're in attitude mode. So while it's up in the air, you'll see those orange flashes and you'll know, okay, I'm in attitude mode now. I'm not in GPS mode, so when I let go of these sticks, it's not going to get that position lock. It's going to drift a little if you have some wind or what have you. So you'll see it flash the orange mode there. Drop that all the way down to manual mode, which again I don't recommend for beginners, but you'll get red flashing on it. So back up to GPS mode, you'll see the green, and again you want to wait before takeoff till you get that solid green flashing. You don't want to take that off until you have that solid green flashing, because that way you know you've locked onto enough satellites and it'll properly perform the GPS functions. The next light status, LED light status that you definitely want to pay very close attention to is the NASA flight controller system alerts you when your battery is getting low. Very important again, especially if you're flying over water. So again, you want to be looking at that LED status light, and what you'll notice when your battery gets down to a voltage where it's getting towards the end of its run time, the LED status will turn to whatever flight mode you're in, either the green flashing for GPS or the orange flashing for the attitude mode. It's going to start to flash red, bright red, and it'll start flashing in a succession of just red only. That's when you first see that, that's your first level of alert for your battery status. The NASA has 2 levels of alert. The first one goes to red, and it allows you to start to plan what you need to do to get it back to you and to get it on the ground. And when it hits that first level of low voltage, you have usually about a minute or so to get that aircraft back over to you and safely to the ground. If you take too long, or if it needs to hit, if it goes to its second level of low voltage, it will then go into its function of auto land sequence, which pretty much brings the multi-rotor down slowly, safely, but it will just drop it where it's at, bring it down to the ground, and that's where it'll land. So again, if you're flying over water, you want to pay very close attention to that red flashing light, and know when you first see it flashing red, get that sucker back, get it on the ground, because it will go into that auto land sequence, and it doesn't know where it's at, but it just wants to get down safely. So again, when it's running, you have 2 levels of low voltage. You'll see it start to flash red, just red in succession, and know that you've hit your first level. Get it back. You got about a minute of flight time left. Get it back to a safe landing spot, and bring it down before it hits that second level of low voltage, because once it hits that, it will bring it down slowly and safely, but it will bring it down wherever it's at in place all the way to the ground, so it won't over discharge your lithium battery and cause damage or even possibly fire or explosion, because lithium batteries can be volatile. So that goes over some basic LED status features. The next segment we will be talking about the other 3-position switch on the radio, the one on the left, which is your intelligent orientation control. That's another segment. It's a little more in depth. It talks about the nose direction and the pointing of the multi-rotor. It's a great feature that both the NASA V2 and the NASA Lite have, so stick with us, check the next video out, and we'll be talking about that. Thanks again. This is Ryan from Eagle Vision Aerial, and have fun out there, guys.